Pot may be legal in New York State, but if you work for the Long Island Railroad, you could still lose your job if you test positive.
All right, Fox 5's Jessica Formoso has more on the lawsuit filed by two now former employees.
Two Long Island Railroad employees have filed a lawsuit against the LIRR after one was terminated and the other one claims he was forced out for failing drug test after returning from medical leave.
They both worked for close to 25 years and they've never been drug tested because the Long Island Railroad doesn't have the authority on its own to test them.
Both employees tested positive for marijuana metabolites, and although the use of marijuana is legal in New York, which means employers are no longer allowed to test employees for cannabis, there are exceptions.
March 31st, 2021, we now have laws that allow for lots of rights with cannabis use as long as it's off premises, as long as you are not doing it on your job's time. You're allowed to do this. Except there's a million exemptions where an employer can require it.
But the union rep for the two LIRR electricians says the railroad's policy violates state law, claiming their jobs don't fall under federal regulation, therefore they can't prohibit the use of pot.
Think of the insanity. While they were actually working on a railroad, they were never tested. Then one went out for a heart condition, one came back from cancer, and the triggering event was they were out for 30 days. Now, this is post-legalization. So our position is even if they had indulged in recreational marijuana, the Long Island Railroad can't prohibit. That's not a prohibited substance anymore.
The LIRR argues its workers are in safety-sensitive jobs, which is why there is a zero-tolerance policy. Andrew Lieb is a labor attorney and says there's a gray area when it comes to the law.
It's not a clean-cut lawsuit because we're going to have to determine whether they were in the safety protocol. And I have to tell you, in the law itself, it says if a company has to comply or a government has to comply with federal law that requires you to have cannabis policies, then you don't have to give rights to smoke cannabis.
That said, many of the cases, he says, don't even make it to court.
You're not going to see an abundance of cannabis, marijuana discrimination in employment cases. It's just not a huge category. But what happens is people talk to each other. They call law firms like mine, but we take about 1 of 20 discrimination cases because when you vet the case, you actually find out, hey, wait a second, you were actually in that job that said it's completely about safety.
I'm Jessica Formoso, Fox 5 News.
And an MTA spokesperson tells Fox 5 the results in these cases